I don't know the backstory. I was gonna ask you how you ended up moving to BC from where you were born, from Winnipeg. It's I don't know, it seems like over the last 5 years, I've noticed so many people relocating and moving due to work from home and things like that, but you came to BC much younger. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. Yeah, for me, it was I mean, it includes most of the backstory to give you all the details, but it, I grew up in Winnipeg is the short answer, between Edmonton and Winnipeg, and I've definitely stuck with the Oilers over the Jets, which at this point is paying off. But it was about a girl I met that lived out here as we were kinda ramping up my first signed project, which was a CCM, um, church-focused band called Starfield.
Yeah.
We signed with EMI, in 2004, and I got married in the same year. And, so we didn't actually live here right away. We both left our childhood homes and went to Nashville to live in a townhome, um, a three-bedroom townhome with 4 band members and a married couple. We shared
Wow.
one 15-passenger van. It was an adventure, but, that lasted a couple of years until we were like, "We don't wanna put roots down in Nashville. This isn't our forever home, so let's get back to either Winnipeg or Abbotsford," and it wasn't much of a conversation. Abbotsford won,
It
and
was
so
an
I've kind of
easy
been here off and on since then.
amazing. Are you guys still married?
We are.
Good
23
for
years,
you.
a couple weeks ago. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we made it out. We got terminal velocity, I think.
It's crazy how, like, growing up, the statistics were like 30, 40%, and then they start to shift, and now I'm hearing like it's 60% divorce rate. What's your secret?
Um, I think it's, I think it's getting into it without the, the back of the mind thought that maybe there's gonna be an out or this is temporary. That's a big part of it for me. I was raised like that, and my parents are still together. I think they've been married 150 odd years at this point. And so there's that example for me. Not that they've been the perfect marriage, but it's certainly been exemplary in as far as like the families that have had to deal with divorce, which you know, are all around me. It doesn't ever seem like it's something fun to
Yeah.
go through, worth avoiding, but also, you know, sometimes in some cases very necessary. And I get it either way, but I think my trick is just in its essence the um the desire to serve my wife and my family and the people that are in my orbit and not allow my ego or you know the current life circumstances to dictate where my principles lie or have been have come from.
Yeah, that makes sense. Personally, I've been divorced twice, and I'm not proud of that. I'm just stating fact. And one of the things that I learned through the divorces was that I had a lot of work on myself to do, and that I don't think that I was healed, whole, or happy with myself. Um, and had I been, then maybe the outcome would have been different. And the irony is that I too come
Mm.
from parents that have been together for 150 years, to use your example. How do you feel about yourself? I mean, I know that we are always changing and growing and learning, but do you think that maybe you are more of a whole man going into the first one, and so you've been making better decisions than maybe I did?
I mean, I think I would have said that up until about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, but I think her and I we've gotten into therapy a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, and we both realized that it's you know by the grace of God or the universe that we're still together, and knowing how much work we've done on ourselves in the last, I guess, really 2 years,
Mhm.
and realizing how in both cases we have things from the past that we haven't dealt with. There's inner child work that has uncovered so many of the ways in which we haven't been able to really see eye to eye. and also to know ourselves in that same way. Like I don't feel like I know my present self. I don't feel like before going through the last few years, I would say I knew myself at all. So I can answer if I were to answer that question 5 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, I've got this figured out, and it's exactly the reason. But here I am. I turned 50 yesterday, um, and I'm realizing I don't know a whole lot about myself. But I also know that I'm a deep feeler and somebody that really cares about these things and is just I feel like a beginner trying to figure out so much of this that really has to go back before I met Carla or was married, and that's a
Uh-huh.
lot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
No, it does. I love this. This is, kind of what I intend with every guest is just have a raw conversation and put the person behind the art on full display. I think that now more than ever in society, we need to just be comfortable having conversations about the things that are happening in our lives. And obviously there's like a time and place for everything. I don't expect everyone to just pour everything out all the time.
yeah,
But don't hide away. Don't have shame for the people that we are and the mistakes that we've made.
yeah,
I will say happy birthday, and I will also use this as a talking point because my birthday is next Wednesday, and so you and I are very similar in terms of sign and probably makeup. I'm going to be 46, so I'm just behind you.
yeah,
You alluded to having a bunch of really difficult years. Is that accurate? Just recently?
yeah. I mean, difficult years in the spiritual realm, probably for sure, and the mental realm, and just knowing myself. You mentioned shame and fear, like just recognizing all the ways in my life that those two things control
Mhm.
me or have influenced how I've thought about myself or the world or spirituality, all of it.
That's funny and fascinating because my, most recent life, I guess, epoch in my life started a couple years ago because that's when my second divorce and separation started, and it was
Mm,
during that time that all of a sudden grandma got sick, then grandma died, then I had a baby
mm,
with a new person, the baby died, I was sick, I had to go for surgery. There was just so much that happened in the last 2 years, but it was all of that craziness that really started to push me into, uh, going inward, evaluating myself, evaluating my mental health,
mm,
evaluating my history and my past, starting to take therapy more seriously, really focusing on the simple things that would make me more whole, more healed, and more happy as a human, which is then in result now helping fuel all the things that I wanna do for everyone else. So we're on the same timeline, or at least a similar timeline.
yeah, yeah. I love that.
You meant you mentioned, therapy there, like, so what are some of the other things that maybe you've changed or altered over the last couple of years to start changing the trajectory of your life?
I think it started with just figuring out that I didn't have a lot of real boundaries,
Mm,
emotional or otherwise, in my life, professional. Just I think I got a lot of validation from people liking me more than I did from standing on my own principles or the things that I knew that I knew. I found myself not really knowing much of anything and just really giving into the and finding definition for it. I didn't really know what it was before I learned about it, but the people pleasing, it's
mm,
living your life outside of yourself for others and not really and just discounting all of the ways in which you are a real person and you have um the ability to make choices for yourself and it doesn't depend on others. And so in that journey comes also people's reactions to the changes that you start making and dealing with the shame of feeling like you're changing and maybe it is all in your head and you're crazy, but that journey has been yeah, the last couple of years, and it's been all encompassing because it's just it's an override situation of of it's basic operating systems that need to be tweaked before all the other programs can kind of work properly. And once you start digging, man, it's hard to not see it in yourself and in others, and then you get addicted to just figuring it out. And that's sort of
Yeah.
the stage I'm still in. As I go through this midlife crisis, I haven't bought myself a 911 yet, but I'm tempted.
I
'Cause
don't
I'm
know
pretty
if
sure
it's
that would bring me happiness, right? Right?
no, I mean, you and I are probably the bad people or the worst people to ask because 'cause we're so similar. We're just gonna be that, like, echo chamber of, "Yeah, great idea."
I think it's honestly, it's not believing your own shit in a lot of ways. It's radical sort of honesty with yourself. It's just learning how many ways and in how many different circumstances you can lie to yourself about your situation to make it to be able to cope. But it's so much better to just live honestly, own your shit, and move on.
Yeah,
Is what
I
I'm
totally
learning.
I mean, especially with our type, like Aries are very stubborn, very focused. We love to help as much as possible. We're very like gregarious and out there. And I discovered, similar to you, that I had issues. And one of my main traits was that I was anxiously attached. So I was terrible in
Yeah.
relationships and especially in a marriage because I was relying so much on the love of the other person to make me feel validated rather than me having my own self sense of validation, own
Yeah.
sense of not self, but like, happiness from within. And that was a big shift for me. As soon as I started to shift that, I realized, oh my God, I feel so much better and more secure about everything that I'm doing. Not that I wasn't already confident before, but now it was, from a very strong base. And the analogy that one of my therapists used or metaphor was, Formula One car. That, you're a
Mm.
Formula One car, you're performing to all these people, you're touring the world, you're making incredible art. If you're not feeding that machine with the best fuel and the best team and the best mechanics and the best repairs and the best new tires, things are going to fall apart.
Yeah. And what worked at one point is not going to work 10 years later when all the tech has moved and everyone's on their new paths. Yeah, that's great.
So tell me a little bit about your upbringing because you mentioned your parents are still together. Mine are too. You obviously are a person who has God in his life. Was all that stuff like instilled in you? Was there faith and religion from a young age on? Do you think that that helped with some of your foundation of self?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped and hindered in some ways, but yes, it was definitely like a. I was actually raised Mennonite Brethren, which is there's a bit of a spectrum there. Most people assume it's like, I grew up on the colony churning my own butter, but it was really more mainline in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid in church. And then we went to some other different kinds of churches, but mainline evangelical, just sort of like your typical corner Baptist church. And yeah, that absolutely shaped me and my worldview and how I kind of interpret. It's certainly the lens through which I still interpret most of life. But I've also been a professional Christian in the sense that I spent a decade signed to EMI Nashville with this
Yeah.
Christian worship band that was a part of the God business in a way that I think I I'm warming up to again, but the whole like independent bluegrass country thing that is currently my life was in a lot of ways a response to that, trying to simplify and get away from just the how commercialized it all was and is versus maybe what it should be. But
Yeah.
I'm a hypocrite if I'm really going to go into that because I've made money off of it and I've had success and I've springboarded on that success to be successful in this new genre. And but yeah, it's always played an important role, and it's coming up again in my life because I have teenage children that I have to decide how to raise, and it's that's been a journey unto itself, and it's been a prerequisite for a lot of the work that I've had to do on myself. Because
Mm.
it's one thing to see yourself and to know yourself and to come to terms with the uglier parts, but it's a whole other thing to see it showing up in your kids
Yeah.
as traits that you know are going to drown them one day if they don't face them. And so knowledge is it's a conviction, man, and it's my biggest victories are the ones where I see it in my kids, where they understand something and they're not feeling shame for it. They're realizing it is what it is, and it's a one and done sort of situation, and they can move on and not let it scar them or alter kind of who they are. That's
Yeah.
been that's been amazing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I have 2 of my own under 10. I have 2 stepkids in this house, also under 10. We've got, 4 kids running around, and it's the best thing in the world to have them laughing and screaming. But that's in large where I am too, and why I'm doing a lot of the stuff, that I am, including this podcast, is not so much that I wanna, like, teach them what to think, but I wanna show them how to behave. I wanna show them how to question things and how to be open,
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
real with the world around us so that they are inspired to do that. I didn't have all of that growing up. I mean, my parents are amazing. My dad was an amazing role model in many ways, but I think there was so much emotion and the ability to be vulnerable and free with your emotions that wasn't discussed before, whereas now it's coming back. And it used to be like that. I talked about this
Mm.
with someone recently where the biggest warriors, like, the Spartans, there was this concept of it wasn't philosopher king, but there was this concept of like warrior by day, philosopher by night, where men used to be like super alpha and go to war, but they would sit around and share all night and philosophize and talk about the stars. Um, I think we need to get back there to that balance.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, that's true. And like modern leadership is just it's not like there isn't a lot of like intellectualism coming out of the highest levels of office or like real spiritual dialogue or
Yeah.
philosophizing about the truth. We're all just so siloed off in our versions of the truth that we've been sold that it's hard to like hard to even hold it at arm's length. And
Yeah.
with kids, I find it's just they're ready for it. Sorry about this. They're ready for it. They want to be and go deep. And everything in culture is really just all the shallow pursuits are the ones that are pushed into their faces. And it's a whole
Ye-
job in itself to try to teach them how to think and how to respond and how to play their role.
Yeah. You just made me like think of something. Growing up, I don't know if you've experienced this at all, but when I was in high school, university, even middle school, I remember constantly asking questions and having like these bigger, grandiose thoughts about the world, God, religion, politics, etc. And it was never about the answer. And I never had like someone forcing an answer down onto me saying, this is right, this is wrong, this is the choice. It was more like, here's a whole bunch of options. These are things that other people are doing or not doing. You should like explore it all and find what is yours. Whereas now it seems like everything is the way. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't and also every option under the sun is maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that there isn't any more like discovering new ways of doing things. Every fourth or fifth TikTok video you scroll through has another philosophy on how to do and how to be. But
Yeah,
I think like I think it's I think there's nefarious forces at work too. Like I think we're being told what to think in so many ways, and we're only being given three or four terrible options most of the time, or one or two options. You know what I mean? Like we're caught in this information sort of whirlpool that isn't tapping into the ocean. It's just whatever has kind of
yeah.
been in the drain, and we have to figure it out while we're going down the hole.
Yeah, that's a really good metaphor. I agree with you in terms
That's
of like,
hopeful, so hopeful. Yes,
No, I
you're
think there
welcome.
is hope. there there is hope, but, like, the metaphor of, like, the information being a pool and then we're trapped in a pool and we think that we're still in the ocean, but we're not.
Mm.
The land or the walls have kind of come in around us. I think that's very apt. Uh, and, I don't
Well,
know. I
especially
don't know what
ancient wisdom. Like we don't really see a need to tap into it. Yeah, I was thinking of Marcus Aurelius when you were talking about like leaders that would used to philosophize and then be great men, like just the great men that are big thinkers that you can just trust the uh
Mhm.
the energy that they put out. We don't have a lot of those these days, but
No, and I think we also don't have enough people who are willing to say, like, "That's just what I think. That doesn't mean it's gonna work for you," or also, my favorite,
right.
"This is what I thought, and I have changed my position because I had a really engaging conversation with Tim, and he brought up a couple things that I'd never thought about before, and now I'm like, 'Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe I'm gonna shift my position or my perspective on something just
Yeah,
a little
no.
bit,' or even, 'I was wrong. My bad. I messed up,'" you know?
Yeah, you're describing humility. Yeah, there's not a lot of that around these days.
So Tim, take me back. Like, how did you fall in love with music? How did you wake up one day and be like, "I'm gonna play Christian rock and eventually bluegrass and be signed and all this stuff," as opposed to, "I'm gonna I'm gonna go for hockey."
Yeah, well, I wasn't great at hockey, but so that's sort of the half answer. I think I was well, certainly I grew up in the church, so it was all church music um until 12 or 13 years old. And even then, like the record collection in my home growing up, the only artists outside of like choral groups or just, like hardcore church music. Um, my dad had a Johnny Cash record and a Pat Boone record. And so that was some of the influence. That was the only cool stuff in our house until I got to an age where uh my sister was she is 3 years older than me, and she would smuggle these cassette tapes that had been recorded off the radio into the house, and I would get to listen to, I mean, even something as simple as Michael Jackson or Bryan Adams on the radio. And that's when I first started to realize that there was cooler music than I had been brought up with. There's some cool music in the church, but I mean, with a grain of salt, a big old grain of salt, much more now than there used to be. Um, but it wasn't until I discovered a band called U2 that I truly like was hit with the scope of what music could be spiritually and physically in a room full of of people on the same page singing the same songs in a stadium. I went to
Mhm.
the theater in Winnipeg, Portage Place, to see Rattle and Hum the movie. I think it was '87, and I bought the cassette in the lobby from a kiosk for probably $40 back then when cassettes were ridiculous expensive, competing with CDs. And I just remember taking it home and playing it on my little ghetto blaster and being very underwhelmed by it because I just heard it on these incredible speakers, but also just falling in love with the spirit of it, just
Mhm.
the kind of songs and subjects that were being written about and sung so passionately, and knowing that Bono also had like a spiritual um, kind of a story and journey, it just really resonated, and that's still what motivates me. I have a Bono a pop, like one of those little characters, bobblehead
Yeah,
things
yeah.
on my
Uncle Pop?
desk still. Funko Pop, yeah, exactly. So I high five him every once in a while, and he helps me get through.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing. So you said your sister smuggled the cassettes in, so were you not allowed certain types of music at home?
Yeah, no, just anything that hadn't been ordained by the Christian bookstore, which is a
Mhm.
thing in itself because I still got to listen to Striper, which I don't know if you know that band, but they were like the
Oh,
Christian metal band that wore spandex and dressed like women, basically dressed in drag, and Christians were at the time real good with it. Not everybody, but it's just the silly controversies that you look back on now. But yeah, not and no movies, just nothing. Wasn't exposed to any of the. I wasn't allowed to watch Flintstones because the
yeah.
couple didn't sleep in the same bed. Stuff like
No,
that. Goonies, I missed out on that. Ghostbusters was absolutely off the table. which I kind of get now. It's that gets pretty deep and spiritual, but
Yeah.
my parents were trying to protect me and my siblings from something that they were afraid of and are still afraid of, but it is it's understandable because I have those things for my children now too that are,
Yeah.
you know, absolutely off limits and maybe when you're older. But I'm with you in that how I'm doing it differently than my parents is that I'm trusting them to make their own decisions and
Yeah.
trying to just help inform them along the way and give them nuggets of truth to kind of hold on to, but for the most part, just love them through it and accept them and encourage them and celebrate them. And so far, so good. They're pretty fearless. I'm sure
Good.
it's not over, but I think we're doing
Is
a
that
pretty good job. 6.5 out of 10 anyway.
it's funny, like, with the music, the medium, the show, the display, the pants, the pyrotechnics, all that stuff, like, it's cool, it's important, but ultimately, it's always just the message, right? Ultimately, it's the lyrics and what is coming through. Uh, your lyrics are extremely, I mean, especially now that you've told me a bit about yourself and your trajectory, there's so much love and spirituality and there's a lot of love song written into your
Yeah.
music. You're coming from a place of, like, truth. And I find it really funny that this new song, If I Go Missing, is about signal versus noise. In the last 2 years has been, like, I think for both of us, this really deep focus on, okay, okay, okay. What is signal and what is noise? And let's turn off the noise and focus on the positive, on the signal, the things that matter. Is
Lock
that
in. Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's super accurate. I mean, as much as you can draw from, the verses and choruses of a 3-minute summer pop song, it does have two levels to it. It's the find your happy place and get away to it. The weekend is here, the classic country music song tropes. But it goes a little deeper, like it talks about turning off your phone and and allowing your mind to just be free to find that inner peace, which has been that sort of secondary pursuit for me through this song and in my life right now is to just find some solid ground to build off of. I've had a
uh-huh.
lot of success, had hit songs, I've won awards. It's just success is and its definition has just changed so much in the last couple of years. And I really just want to do things that move people and that I enjoy doing in the process of that. And it's a weird thing. There's so much ego that is necessary for to be able to lead a crowd of thousands in any capacity. And I found that I've had to sort of like at the same time as I'm trying to lose my ego, I definitely need to find something in order to pass along the message and the vibes of what we're trying to pass along. I have to be okay being seen. I have to be okay with being perceived by many when I feel like I want to just shrink away. And that's been a lesson too, and just like what my calling in life is. I don't even mean a spiritual calling, just like what do I want to do? Okay, well then this is what it takes to get there, to truly communicate and to truly be able to connect with people. You've got to give of yourself in ways that probably hurt and feel awkward, but it gets easier. And that's sort of the journey I'm on right now, specifically.
Yeah, I really love that and appreciate you sharing that. I mean, similar to the song, in the most recent press material, it talks about how, actually, that's not true. It was one of your videos on Instagram, I believe, where you talk about how yourself and some of your bandmates, you guys will literally, go away and lock yourself up and sequester yourself for the creation process. And whether it
Hmm.
takes a month or a year, you let it be totally organic and authentic without outside noise or input. Is that how you always created?
Uh, not really. No, I think I've always said like I love to have written, but I don't really like writing. Like I like the outcome of it. I love the dopamine hit of having something that I created, but a lot of times the writing is excruciating to try to figure out what it is you're trying to say, and that can only be overcome by locking in, by locking eyes with it and staring it down sometimes, and that's what this last season has had to be.
So what how do you know, because it's different for every artist, how do you know or how do you feel when you know something is finished or done, when you're like, "Yes, that's it. Let's wrap it up."
I mean, I don't. I think it like somebody once said, "All great art is never finished, it's only abandoned." I there's a literal hummingbird fight going on behind me here. Can you see that?
No, but it's funny because hummingbirds are symbolic in my life, so of course they're
They're
there.
so territorial, it's incredible.
So you mentioned hummingbirds. For me, one of the other things that's hugely symbolic in my life, it's one of the things that keeps popping up that I have on the back of my arm here is a eagle, which you happen to have on your on your shirt. It's funny
Yes.
because you were talking about that ego and having to go and perform in front of people and trying to balance yourself. I feel like the eagle is such a great representation of that, of like of where you're headed, where you want to have the solitude in the tree, sometimes solitude in the tree with your partner, but when it comes time to like soar, you just get out there and do it, and that's okay. It's okay to do that, then come back to quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big ego guy too, and I get that. That hits. I think they're like, eagles are such apex predators. Like, if you literally their only, foe would be humans, right? Like,
I
and
believe
we'll go
so.
to jail for a significant amount of time if we mess with them.
Yeah.
As far as the evolutionary scale goes, they're kinda right at the top. But they're also, they're just in charge, and they just figure it out, and they're beautiful and majestic. I love them. We have so many of them flying around here. I've camera reels full of the same eagle pick over and over again.
Well, so that's your motivation for like where you've been and where you're going and how you continue to like be the top performer that you are is embody the eagle.
The spirit of the eagle. Yes, I'm here for it. We
Uh,
actually had this isn't an eagle, but it is we on this balcony, we have a lot of glass in this house, and a red-tailed hawk ended its life slamming into the window. It was just so fascinating to see one up front, up close, and it felt spiritual putting them down on the
yeah.
ground. But
Did you
anyway,
keep it?
yeah,
The
I know
hawk?
you're not supposed to, so don't tell anybody. But we didn't like report it, which apparently you're supposed to do.
I didn't know that. I plead ignorance. I know that you're not supposed to like hunt or trap or whatever the eagles, but if one dies of natural causes or whatever, I don't understand why one wouldn't be able to keep it.
I definitely kept its feet and some of its feathers. I got to
I have
find
a
a crystal ball and get it over, and then like put it on the end of a necklace
That'd be sweet.
for all the good luck.
There's a lady who makes hats in Squamish. She makes phenomenal, beautiful custom hats, and, I think her husband found a dead eagle once, and she gifted me one of the feathers. I don't know the full story, but I have an eagle feather here, and it was such a beautiful gift, and there was just something crazy about holding it. Just you could feel, like, energy coming off this feather. I can't even explain it.
Mm, I love it.
I as much as I try to talk about mindset, and obviously you and I are on similar trajectories, and we're through hope and I guess prayer, worship, whatever you want to say it, through therapy, counseling. We have conversations and we try to better ourselves and move forward and be better humans and better parents, all that jazz. I also love to get as much as I can for the creative community. In your case, for musicians and artists, you've been in the industry for so long. You've been signed. You've been with majors. You've received multiple awards along the way. You've had projects end and new projects start. Um, what are some of the things that I guess A are the hardest about the industry, and B things that you absolutely have to be successful in the industry?
Mm. I think, I mean, you need thick skin for sure. And one of the hardest things is just the isolation of it. It's a lonely pursuit, and it's hard to know who your people are, and it's hard to not get taken advantage of. It's hard to live open and and ready to sort of receive the best of people in an environment where there's a lot of predators, I guess,
Yeah.
that want to sort of suck that energy out of you and monetize it. And not that it's been that kind of a journey for me. There's certainly been relationships that have gone south over money and just dumb negotiations. But at its heart, it's like find the people in the industry that are of like heart and mind. And that might mean that you're not with the coolest management team or the best label, or that you sometimes you have to make decisions that are counter to what everybody else would advise you to do in that situation. You don't go for the best, you go for the most honest, or the one that the opportunity that is going to allow you to be your best self and the most honest self. That's sort of that's the what I've lived by, trying to navigate the big things and the small things. But this most recent sort of revelation of the last couple of years has softened me to the point where it's like, man, I'm less sensitive to the things that I could possibly take personal.
Right on.
And I just want to see people be free like I'm learning how to be free. And
Yeah.
that isn't that isn't about accolade. It's not about any kind of success. It's about the internal work that you either are motivated to do or not. But that's that's for me what's most important right now. I forget what the question was, but
No, that's awesome. I love that train of thought, and it's funny that you're talking about, freedom and flexibility, go with the flow. Those are huge things that I've learned over the last 2 years, and, here we are just coming off a conversation about the eagle, right? Of all the things that is symbolic of freedom, that is one of the top ones. I use the analogy of the river and the rock. The river is constantly flowing, and when things arise in the way of the river doesn't stop. The river doesn't get frustrated. The river doesn't look at the rock. The river just keeps going. And so I try to like have that in my mind so that when my kids are freaking out or someone cuts me off or whatever it is, I immediately say, do you want to stop flowing or do you want to keep going? And it
mm,
really helps. I really it
mm.
helps me prioritize my flow and my go over stopping and putting that energy into, being angry at someone who might just be having a bad day, and that's why they're doing that, you know?
Yeah, grace for your fellow man, and an understanding that life's long, and yeah, the rapids are temporary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
The music industry is like, a mountain. Tupac Shakur has a couple quotes that I live by. One of them is that the realest of people have the fewest of friends, and the other is that it's lonely at the top, right? And I really think that the higher we climb the mountains, proverbial mountain of life, proverbial mountain of success, um, the thinner the air and the less people that go because it's hard, right? It's hard to do what you do, to be a musician and be all in and keep going and have hits and then not have hits and then back to hits. A lot of people drop off and then the pool of people gets smaller and smaller along the way and eventually you get
Yeah.
to a certain level and it is lonely there. I guess it's a good thing that you're finding a lot of sense in yourself along the way, but it's not all bad. You've got, like, an amazing group of people around you, and what's it like collaborating with guys that you love being with?
Yeah, I mean, there's ups and downs in those relationships too, and it is, but yeah, I would agree. It isn't. I think loneliness is something that is inherent to sort of men right now,
Mm,
and talking about feelings and all of those things, and so getting to do that, or I guess being more intentional about that with the guys that are in my life that I am close with, or at least collaborating with, has been so rewarding, and it's it doesn't even matter what the outcome of the art is at that point if there's two people connecting on a spiritual level like that. Like this interview, like this is we're both taking from it and maybe dropping some wisdom that others can kind of pick up on. And I think that is ultimately like the purpose of art is just to alter the perspective on how we see the world and allow it to move us to a better place, like a more healing place, a brighter place. And
Yeah,
that's the collaboration of it. Like I as much as I sometimes feel lonely on the road when I'm surrounded by people, um I also yeah, I don't necessarily have to, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't have to be alone to feel lonely. It's
yeah,
always it's always coming outside of myself first to to understand that everybody's on the same exact journey and all
yeah,
fighting for those feelings of acceptance and validation and having time for that and those that I'm working with is proving to be so having more time for that than I have in the past is I don't want to leave this place. It's awesome. It's impactful in a real way for me and those that I'm able to kind of be in relationship with, and those are the kind of people that I'm trying to keep in my life. And maybe I'm pruning off some of the others that are. There's a lot of people that find me useful for just one way or another, whether it's paying help paying their mortgage or just being a stepping stone for something else that
yeah,
that I could be used for. And I don't think those are bad things. Just like it's a balance of figuring out what you yeah, what your calling is in the world and then just being generous and trying to serve people.
yeah.
That's where I'm at right now.
Well, that's a beautiful place to be. I mean, I just finished a book called Ikigai. It talks about, the one of the blue zones in the world is in Japan where people live to be the oldest and the healthiest.
Mm,
And Ikigai basically means purpose. It's your life's purpose, is what you're supposed to do. And unfortunately, especially with all the distractions and technology now, most people don't even find their purpose. They get so caught up in the bills, job,
so true.
life that they're like, oh, I just want to paint. I wish I had more time to paint. Well, why don't you just paint? It's not easy. I'm not saying everyone can just quit their job and paint, but you seem like you found your purpose. Do you feel like what you're doing is what you're supposed to do?
No, I mean I don't know. I couldn't even tell you right now. I think so for right now. But more than ever in the last year I'd be okay to just drive my kid's school bus, I think, and not do any of this extra level high calling stuff and just have a small community of people that I can be in relationship with.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that.
And that's okay too. I think that we have this crazy societally driven pressure that you have to succeed and you have to hit a certain level of wealth. And there's so many markers by which success is measured rather than just, do I feel happy? Do I feel like I've succeeded in my life? I put pressures on myself just because of how my parents have done, right? Like in their lives. And so somehow subconsciously I was like, if I don't hit that, then I'm not doing well. And then it took me so
Yeah.
much effort to realize like, no, do you, man?
Yeah. Yeah. I think my two things are to work to be unshameable and unoffendable. If I can do that, me and everybody around me is going to be better off for it.
Yeah. I appreciate that sentiment. I got a quick dad joke for you. You just reminded me of it. I came up with it out of nowhere yesterday and my kids laughed their butts off. So
An
that means,
original dad joke. Give it to me.
well, you've been talking about purpose, and for me, purpose is like so important. I feel like I've, for the first time in my life, really hit my stride with what I'm supposed to be doing rather than what I think I should do or what I ought to do or what my career
Yeah.
might have been. I just wake up every day and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. It fulfills me. I can do it for 24 hours and it doesn't feel like work. That's when you know your flow and it's purpose. So why is the orca the apex predator over the great white?
Why?
Because the orca lives with porpoise.
We've all learned here
Terrible.
today, but I have learned a new dad joke, and that's invaluable. Thank you for that.
Well, I don't know if anyone will find it funny, but when my kids laugh, that's all that matters to me.
I agreed. Agreed. Even if it's at your expense, I'll take it
You
always.
have some shows coming up this summer. You've got music in the works.
Yeah.
What are you focusing on? Where is your energy going now and for the next 6 to 9 months?
We are ramping up uh, the show, the summer show. We have a bunch of tour dates all over Canada. We're actually doing a. I'm going to call it a world tour because it's Spain on the last weekend of August, and then Australia the next weekend. And I have to go around the whole world to do it. So that's the end of our summer. Some fun stuff that takes a little more work and focus, but this season has been us just ramping it up, learning some of the new songs, some that haven't been released yet, and then which covers to do. I'm always on a quest. My kids, I drive them nuts because I always want to know, as teenagers, have you heard this song? Sometimes they'll pull up like a throwback song that there's no way they could know. And sure enough, some movie or some TikTok video had it as it sounds. So that's what I spend most of my time doing, driving down the gravel roads around my place here, blaring music, trying to just picture myself in a field somewhere in Saskatchewan or Ontario with thousands of people singing at the top of our lungs.
That's awesome. How do you pick your covers? Like, is there do you just roll a dice or what is it?
Kinda. I feel like it is an art form, man, because there's some covers that are so obvious, but they're so obvious that everybody does them. So then you don't want to do those songs. Like a Friends in Low Places would be one of those.
Mhm.
It's just that sort of left of center thing. I really enjoy doing female artists. We had a Dua Lipa song we kind of did a little Latin interpretation of that we played a couple years that was really fun, but finding those is yeah, that's the journey. I don't you kind of just have to try it out and see if it hits or
Yeah.
not. But you can't go
Were
wrong
you
with
Sorry, keep
a few.
going.
No, there's just a few that are like the singable ones, like the country roads of the world. Those will always work.
Yeah. I have no idea if it'll resonate with you, but it popped into my head and I Googled it just to check. 1976 was the year you were born, right?
Yes.
That is also the year that Steve Miller Band released Fly Like an Eagle. I think we need a bluegrass cover of Fly Like an Eagle.
Fly like an eagle. Yes. Let's see. Is there spirit carrying me? Tick, 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 tick. I can hear it. I can hear it. I'll get right
Just a
on that.
thought. Just a thought.
That is random though. And a great song and
So
great band.
happy anniversary of 50 years well lived. I
Thank you.
really appreciate your time. I know that you've got some other stuff to get off to.
Dude, yeah,
I'm
I loved this. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no worries. I'm gonna see you in person. I mean, you guys have a couple shows down the road, so I'm gonna check them out this summer. But,
Please do.
you know, here's to another awesome 50 years. Why don't you leave us with a piece of sage or the most important advice that you take away from your first 50 years?
Mm. Well, this is mostly from my last year, so 49 to 50, but I would say just know thyself. Figure out what your triggers are telling you and know how to just be a better person for those in your life and ultimately for yourself. Figure it out, bud. In the words of a true Canadian, figure it out, bud, and you'll be happier.